And we're back, everybody. Another episode of the Daniel Duncan Show.
Yeah,
Today is the eve of the NFL draft, and
let's go.
it's one of our favorite days of the year. But first, before we get into things, Dan, there's somebody else here today on our show. Would you like to introduce our first guest, our first guest to the show?
Yes, I will. First guest ever to our podcast show. This man's a great friend of mine. He's a brother to me, brother from another mother. State championship winner at Tumwater. Played his college ball at Whitworth. Let's introduce Tyler T. Money Woods.
Hey, gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be on your show as a guest, the first guest, I will say. Thank you for that warm introduction, and I'm happy to join you guys on your conversation on this draft eve we find ourselves on.
Yeah.
So before we get into our little mock draft, Dan, what you got on your feet today?
Oh yeah. Let's get to that.
Woo! The teddies,
Yep.
the teddy slippers, the pink ones.
We're going pink.
I didn't know those were out yet. Those are awesome.
I got those recently.
New drop. Okay,
Can't
I
keep
like
up
it.
with what number pair is that now?
Maybe 20, 21.
Wild.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, let me share my screen real quick and we will jump into it. Okay. So, um, the way we're going to split this up, Dan and Tyler will be in charge of the first 16 teams. They will be their GM, and we'll all talk about the picks, talk about just what tomorrow could look like because it's so hard to predict, and but that's what we love about it. And then I'll do the
Yeah.
latter half of the picks with your guys' analysis as well. So, do you guys want to begin?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, Daniel. Who could possibly go number one overall? Who do you got? I feel like it's a toss up.
Yeah, it's gonna be Caleb Williams from USC. He's gonna go number one. He's the slam dunk number one pick. I've been seeing it for months on mock drafts that I've done, mock drafts from ESPN all over. So he's the number one pick.
I think the other thing you got to think about with that one too is, although I'm a Husky, so personally not a fan, but uh, with
Geneva.
the with the moves they've been making, and kind of what the fan base is looking at too, I feel like they're kind of forced to make this call and ride it out whether good or bad. So I feel like Chicago's back's against the wall. They've got to make this big move and take Caleb Williams number one. I feel like there's no other option.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they're
Yeah.
sold.
Yeah, the dominoes have fallen.
Hmm.
Fields is in Pittsburgh. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, next pick.
All right, Daniel. Number two, what do you got?
Commanders. Jaden Daniels, number two. Mobile quarterback is a need for the Commanders.
Mm. And I'm not gonna lie, from the stuff we saw from him at the end of last season, oh boy, I would be excited to have him in my backfield personally. Made some big time plays, although they, didn't make it all the way. He's a dangerous quarterback, like you said, run game included.
Yeah,
Yeah, they spent a lot of money on a lot of veteran players this offseason, and as long as they can keep him protected, uh, he is the surefire number two guy in this draft.
I
let's
think they
go.
also they also did a good job of beefing up their defense too. So I think it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see how these moves play out, in the next season. There was a notable amount of defensive players moving over to Washington.
including.
One of them we know really well.
Yep.
Yeah, we sure do.
Yeah,
So a lot of people are saying this is where the draft really starts at pick three. Um,
Mm,
it sounds like there have been quite a few massive offers given to the Patriots, but they hold the control, you know, they hold their destiny with this pick right here.
Yeah.
I think
Uh,
the thing is they got to look at rebuilding. They've been struggling. So kind of where they feel they need to go. Is it a quarterback? Is it, getting a receiver? Where are they going? Dan, what do you think about this one?
so I've been thinking about this one for like weeks at least. What I've heard is they're gonna rebuild. Quarterback is a need. Their front office has gone back and forth between quarterback and receiver, but I feel like they need a quarterback because they only have Brissett, and he's going to help out with the veteran presence. But I think they take quarterback. They go with Drake May at number 3.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you, Dan. I mean, obviously they've been missing a key piece at quarterback for a while since, Brady left for Tampa. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think, you got to start back where you had success, and that's with the quarterback position because, you kind of got to build off of that. So I agree. I think that's a great call. I feel like we could easily see that happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
I agree, fellas, and especially if, you know, all these teams are moving mountains in order to get Drake May. Thinking about, you know, the potential, obviously the Patriots are getting a lot of flexibility with quite a few picks, but if May turns out to be legit, that's just gonna kill for them. And so I totally agree. I think that's the right move. I think they should hold on to that pick and do the right
Hmm.
thing. And I think a lot of teams are gonna start to scramble once this pick happens. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but
yeah. I think.
mhm.
Sorry, go ahead,
No,
Kellan.
you know, keep going.
I
Oh, go
think
ahead.
kind of like your point. You got all these teams fighting to get to that third spot, and you got to think if this team was in a better position going in, and maybe they had some really good stuff happen in the off season, maybe they'd be more comfortable and be able to make those deals. I just don't think they're in a spot. I think they're on the chopping block as far as decision makers, and they've got to produce. And I don't think there's any room to gamble. I think you got to go with the safe pick here. I agree.
Yeah, I totally agree with your analysis there on that pick. And it all comes down to the front office, what they want in that decision. This is a new revitalization of the franchise, and this is the right move to go here for the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree with
Okay.
you.
Three straight quarterbacks. Now we got Arizona on the clock.
Oh man, a team in our division, Tyler. The Cardinals. We play them twice a year. They need they need a receiver. I mean, I've been going back and forth between same thing, like quarterback, receiver, but they need a receiver, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is the guy that they'll take at number 4.
Yeah, I mean, as a Seahawks fan, like you said, when I think of something that's going to keep me up at night, it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. So I feel like they've got to take that pick. The writing's on the wall. First person viewpoint of this, I was at our last game last year against Arizona,
That's
and
right.
everyone after that game, all the Cardinals fans were telling me, watch out, we got Marvin Harrison on the way. And I think the writing's on the wall with this one. I think the number 3 spot has a little more undecidedness than the 4. I feel like Marvin Harrison has been locked in at this 4 spot for Arizona for a while.
Yeah, and he's Larry Fitzgerald esque. I mean, he's the guy that they need in the same, to fill those same shoes.
Yeah.
So I like that pick.
I
Yeah, they
agree.
need to give
And
Kyler
yeah,
some love.
he needs it. And um they got you know, they got a pick later in the first round too. So the need to trade down, sure that you know there could be benefit there, but no, can't pass on Maserati Marv. So
That's generational talent right there
right.
from what we've seen. I
Yeah,
think that's another call where, I think some decision makers would face some real potential to lose their position if they pass up on someone like this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree.
Okay. Should we move on now? to
I
Jim
feel like
Harbaugh's
this is where
first
it gets a
pick.
little interesting.
Yep.
So
They need so much.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think if we face the challenge of what do they go after, because there are so many different things they need to do. Obviously, they've got a great quarterback. I'm a believer in, Herbert. I think he's got it all. I like his attitude. I think now it comes down to either protection or adding weapons to his artillery. Personally, Dan, before you give your pick, from what I've seen, the debate is, do they go with Alt to, kind of go along with Harbaugh's, hard-nosed football
Hmm.
approach, or
Yep.
is he going to switch that up with, a threat like Herbert? Because he's more than just a system guy, and not to speak poorly about JJ McCarthy, but their system was very heavy emphasis on the run game, hard-nosed football. And
Yep.
I'm curious to see their mentality going into this pick because yes, if you're looking to continue that on, a great offensive lineman would be great for that sort of scenario. Or is he going to, play more to Herbert's play style and being able to be a elite quarterback potentially and give him a weapon at receiver? That's where I find myself seeing the debate.
Yeah, it's a good debate there. I mean, we just mentioned it. The needs that they need, tackle with Harbaugh. Um, I mean, it's up for debate here. I mean, what
Could also trade
I
down.
yeah, you could trade down, but to be honest, I feel like they need to take this pick at 5. Even though I did a trade earlier in another paper version. They take the pick and they're gonna take Joe Alt. I'm gonna go offensive lineman.
You think you're going alt? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put that one down. Personally, like I said, that dog in me, I could see us getting a wrench thrown in. I believe Rome Odunze has potential to be the number 2 receiver to go in this draft.
Yep.
I could see him potentially being at this pick. Do I think it's likely? Not necessarily. I think that's another thing to consider. I think he, impressed a lot of people throughout the season in the combine. So I think he's made a case to, at least be in the conversation there.
Yep.
Also, I don't know if it's all also dependent on how Minnesota views McCarthy because it seems like they were very high on May, so maybe they don't feel the need to go up to 5 with the Chargers if they're not as high on McCarthy and or maybe if somebody like Penix is available down the board. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, I totally agree.
I think, yeah, I mean, looking at who we have next, I think, obviously Chicago is not going to be looking for a quarterback, and then looking to see, which of these teams ahead of them are going to be looking for one, because maybe they are able to snag JJ at that 11 pick.
Right.
It could be
Yeah.
something where they don't need to move for that, because I don't know how high the demand is for JJ McCarthy right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the mystery this year. I know, we remember Will Levis last year, having to sit
Hmm.
the entire green room without hearing his name called. So, um, yeah, and I know he in an interview today with Rich Eisen, he said that the Giants were the team he was most in contact with and talking about how
Yep.
he's already familiar with their scheme. But again, still the Giants invested quite a bit in Daniel Jones and but a lot of their free agent moves this season make it seem like they don't really want to compete. And so yeah, that kind of leads us to our next pick, gentlemen. The New York
Hmm.
Giants are on the clock at 6.
New York Giants.
Walk me through this one, Dan. What do you think?
I'm thinking this is what I'm thinking. They they could go quarterback even though they have Jones locked up.
And
They
Drew Lock.
signed Drew Lock, but they have not had a 1,000-yard receiver in a long time since like Odell Beckham. They take Malik Neighbors at number
Hmm.
6.
I like that.
Yeah, I think it's
He's a speed demon, to be honest.
hmm
He's so fast and he can break out of those routes quick. Like he could be on a dime for whoever's at quarterback. Just throw him
Hmm.
the ball, he'll catch it, he'll make the big plays. That's what New York needs. The fans
Yeah.
need that.
Yeah. I think similar to the Chargers, they have so many needs. They've got to go after a superstar like Neighbors. I think that's a solid move. Could they go in a different direction? They could. I just feel like they've got to go after the best available at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just all depends on how people view Odunze versus Neighbors. And I know us
Hmm.
being West Coast people, we're very familiar with Rome Odunze and just his entire there's probably like 20, I think there was like a 15-minute highlight reel strictly of contested catches. It's just,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
the receiver depth is definitely generational in this draft. Um,
Yeah.
so we move on to the next pick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Tennessee Titans on the clock.
Tennessee Titans. They have a young quarterback by the name of Will Levis that we just mentioned.
Hmm.
Uh, they lost a lot of great receivers over the years. They do need offensive line. Could use one of those big playmaker like tight ends maybe, but maybe later rounds. Um, the best other offensive lineman that I've seen in the draft, and I have him slated high, is C.J. Latham out of
Mm-hmm.
Alabama. I think that's the best way for Tennessee to go.
Let's book it.
I like
Another
that.
position with a lot of depth.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We're seeing a lot of, obviously the quarterbacks. We got a really great group of quarterbacks, great group of receivers, but I do love the big boys getting some love. Our
Mm-hmm.
own Patanu, is that how you say it? Out of UW?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
He's up there in the conversation going early, and it's great to see those big boys get some love because they were obviously putting in good work over this past season. I mean, UW's offense was nationally recognized. Um, so it's great to see those dudes in the conversation early on, um, it going into this draft. They're getting a lot of love.
yeah.
Potentially three Huskies selected, maybe even four. We'll see.
Potentially, yeah.
Only
Four.
time will tell.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay, guys. So,
You guys are professionals here.
yep.
Dan, you made a lot of changes to your list you sent earlier. I like it on the spot.
okay, so
Yeah, I mean, this is what me and Kellan do. I mean, the first one we flip flop picks,
mhm.
and we were trying to figure out, this simulator type thing where you could just put the best guys in those positions, even if he took someone that I had slotted at that team. Like
Right.
you had to like figure out who would be the next guy to like take at that team or
Hmm.
that position.
I will say, Mariners disappointed me tonight.
Oh,
We can
they
move on from
lose.
there.
Believe that, man.
5-1.
They were missing some guys.
But we won't linger on that.
Okay, we're caught up.
Good.
Okay. So now the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock, and we've only had offensive players selected so far. Is this where we see the first defender taken?
Yes, it is. Dallas Turner out of Alabama.
I think I think I've seen that pretty commonly across the mocks. I think notable mentions would be, with the big move they made in the cornerback position, could be smart to, try and support him with some more weapons. As we talked about, there's plenty of weapons to go around. I could see them potentially trying to get, a receiver
Hmm.
or some sort of pass threat to throw in. Because as we've seen, although Kirk Cousins is older, he ages like fine wine, and he, is still able to play as long as he's healthy and be an elite quarterback still. So I think it could be, maybe we do continue to see offensive players. I don't know. I just know they may end up trying to weaponize Kirk Cousins even more.
Hmm.
Well said. I mean, either way, it could go either way. I mean, they could get someone like Dunze, or they could get an offensive lineman to protect Cousins. But like you said, I mean, he recovers fast.
Yeah, and when's the last time we've heard of, a big name edge rusher, on that Atlanta Falcons? It's like, um,
For a long time.
yeah,
I guess
so, they need a guy.
Vic Beasley in
And
2016, 2015.
yeah, and so as far as the ability to sack the quarterback on the edge, there's no better guy in the draft than him. So I like that pick.
I think that's
Yep.
a great point, Kellen. I think it is easy to forget about the value of defense because a lot flashier to look at the offensive side of the ball. But as a defensive player myself, you win games on that side of the ball. So being able to get to the quarterback, get home, I think that's important. And I think it would be it's always good to improve your defense.
My position, defensive line, right there. I love
Heck yeah, yeah. Daniel is a speed demon over there, always getting to the quarterback.
that.
Yeah, any in this type of pick, it's a need, and in that type of division they're in right now, the window's open. You got the Saints who, they're very much so middle of the pack every year. We're not sure if the Panthers will be able to take the leap this year. Will Baker be able to replicate that success? So yeah, he could make a, huge impact on the division.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so this is Chicago's second pick. Now we're at 9. What do we do? What are they doing here?
Dan, I think I know where you're going with this. And I think it's pretty consistent from what we've been seeing on all the mock drafts from the ESPN guys. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I see our friend Adunze going to, add some firepower to Caleb Williams.
You are correct. That is the way that I've been going lately. Yeah. He's gonna add that spark.
As weird as that feels, because I mean, I was rooting heavily against this dude when we were playing USC, and I know you were at that game and you were doing the
Yep.
same thing.
Yep.
Uh, you know, could be interesting. We saw them up together leaving for Detroit. Um, maybe that connection could be good. I mean, they're both superstars in their own position, so I think that's the smart move for Chicago. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. New York Jets. Last year for the New York Jets did not go as planned from about 15 minutes into the season. Um, Zach Wilson is now a Denver Bronco. They don't have to suffer with him anymore. However, the last full year of Aaron Rodgers that we got, he led a team to an 8-9 record. And so a lot of question marks still, but they've done a lot to improve the offensive line this offseason. It feels like a, all in situation right now for the New York Jets, and it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, Kellen, I think number one, let's just state the fact. I don't know what Denver is doing, and I don't think they do either. First, Russell Wilson, and just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it gets worse. They're paying Russell Wilson to leave, and they're bringing in this dude that
Yep.
didn't do anything. So,
Hmm.
that aside, no apologies whatsoever to the Broncos fans watching. I was going into this season really interested to see how the Jets would do. More than just the offensive side, but their defense. And you got to see that throughout the season as well, because although they were losing games, the scores were lower and they have a great unit over there. So, you know,
Yeah.
even if Aaron Rodgers isn't at his peak still, I feel like even, some moderate or somewhat even mediocre performance, just getting points on the board, I think it's going to give them a lot of success given how skilled their defense is. As far as where they go with this pick, I don't know. Do you go after, an offensive guy, or do you continue to, feed the beast on the defensive side of the ball? Because I feel like that was their only positive to the last season was how good their defense was.
I mean, they were in some of their games. I mean, they put points on the board, and then they just struggled towards the end of the year. Um, both sides of the ball very inconsistently at times. Offensive line and defensive line could I mean both for needs could go any way. Um, I think with this pick, you either go offensive line, you go tight end maybe, or you go defensive line. And I believe they should go offensive line to protect Rodgers, and they go with our boy from Washington,
Woo!
Troy. Troy is going to the Jets.
Troy
Let's go
Fatandu
dogs.
off
Let's
the
try and avoid
board.
let's try and avoid the fiasco of last year for the Jets, huh? Get some
Yep.
protection up there.
I love that pick. They seriously, who knows, how much, coming off an Achilles injury like that, they need all the help they can get to protect him. So,
Yep. Yep.
mhm. Okay, moving on. So these next three picks, guys, we got three teams who could all use a quarterback. However, considering the value of a lot of the quarterbacks left on the board, maybe outside of JJ McCarthy, it's interesting trying to mock, Penix and Nix early on. But, these three teams need a quarterback. It'd be hard to project, six quarterbacks going in the top 13, but a lot of decisions on the board right now. And so um, to begin, where do you guys think Minnesota goes with this pick? Because obviously, they lost out on Drake May. Um, so yeah, and they have that next pick at 23 as well. So
Um,
Daniel, what are you thinking?
this is critical right here for Minnesota. That they need a quarterback. They lost Cousins to Atlanta. They added Aaron Jones from Green Bay. Sorry, Kellan. Um, and I think they go quarterback, and it's JJ McCarthy from Michigan.
book it. Yeah. How do you think do you think that bringing in McCarthy will keep Justin Jefferson in town for the next, 5+ years?
The thing is, they have to once they make the pick, once he lands in Minnesota, the two of them they have to bond and they have to connect. I believe when they bond and connect, the management they could either come in and say, "Okay, let's get this guy signed and sealed immediately." If the two end up becoming, bromance brothers,
Yeah.
so I feel like it could work out.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, just because, McCarthy was in a completely different system. He was in that old school system. He was, making plays with the ball when he had to, but really reliant on the run game because, with an O line like that and a running back, I feel like you have to. I think it'll be interesting to see how he fares, because the NFL has moved towards, it's a pass air offense all the time.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see him get stretched into more of a passer than more of a not to be use it derogatory in a derogatory way, but more of a system going from a system quarterback into that more passer offense.
Yeah, and Kevin O'Connell, he's an offensive minded guy, so I mean, he'll try and find ways to get him into that system at least, once they end up getting him, and he's around O'Connell, he'll fit in.
Yeah, I'd say that pick is going to be the deciding factor if Jefferson stays or not.
Mm-hmm.
At least a year together to see. But there are just quite a few questions with Minnesota right now. Um, that, I'm not sure if they'll be able to compete this year. So,
Yeah.
um, But
Mhm.
okay, moving on to pick 12. The Denver Broncos are now on the board. And Zach Wilson's their quarterback as of now.
I think that needs list needs to be way longer than it is. I think we need to add in positions
It's
that
And they
like
don't
don't
have
even
that many
exist.
picks either. This could
Yeah.
be a trade down situation.
Yeah, they gave them all away.
Hmm.
I think I don't even know where to begin with this one. Just because, how do you know where to start? And if they're making moves like they did with Zach Wilson, like you gotta wonder where their head's at.
Hmm.
Yep.
Daniel, what do you think, man?
Let's trade him down. Let's trade him down with someone.
Who are we thinking? So we got Brock Bowers on the board. We have no cornerbacks yet. Um, we also have Byron Murphy, Jared Verse, a lot of offensive line, like I said. I've heard a lot of teams have been calling about offensive line. 12 is a bit risky to move up to. However, there is, depth on the board. I've also heard rumors potentially of the LA Rams maybe wanting to trade up and getting a lineman to potentially replace Aaron Donald.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
I've
That's
heard,
some big shoes to fill there. That's a great
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, thinking of what teams down the board might want Brock Bowers, that could be a potential trade up. Um,
Let's go with the Rams.
yeah,
Let's go with the Rams.
okay. The Rams, after having their first round pick in years, are trading up with the Denver Broncos. They will be trading. We're just doing this kind of informally, just picking things that work. I'd say, 7 spots, maybe a second as well.
Yeah.
Um, maybe a third, and a future late round pick, but we'll just go that just for now. So now
Fair
the
enough.
so now the LA Rams are on the board, and recently their best player just retired. So the heart
Mm-hmm.
and soul of the defense. I know you two are
Yep.
really excited after that news and not having
Yeah,
to worry about
Yep.
him facing your quarterback anymore.
I
So,
would I would even say heart and soul of the team. I mean,
mhm.
after
Yes.
we've
Oh
kind
yeah,
of seen
yeah.
that Super Bowl All-Star team kind of, fall apart, I feel like it's kind of just Aaron Donald's the only one we're talking about when it comes to LA Rams. I mean, unfortunately, Cup's been dealing with injuries. Love the
Yep.
dude. Um, you know, straight out of Washington, which we love, out of Eastern. But yeah, I feel like it's been tough to find, many positives outside of Aaron Donald. So I think it'll be interesting to see, not only their draft, but also this season, where do they start?
So what do they do with this pick?
They're going to take a defensive lineman, and it's going to be Murphy out of Texas.
He gave us some trouble. That defensive line gave us some trouble
Oh yeah.
for
Yep.
UW this year. We got out of there, but I think he's a dangerous guy. Him and Sweat. I think they're vicious.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
runs.
Both of those
Yeah,
guys, they're vicious.
and yeah, other Newton maybe, but as far as pass rushing, defensive tackles, these two are the best in the draft, and
Mm-hmm.
um, it's sneaky to have defensive tackles be as athletic as they are, and obviously they hit on Aaron Donald, and so it'd be very impressive to see if lightning could strike twice with this pick.
Took
Um,
the words right out of my mouth.
so we have our first trade in our mock draft. Um, Now we got the Las Vegas Raiders on the board, guys. What's going on in Vegas? They got Gardner Minshew in town, but he's a bridge quarterback.
Yep.
Quite a few other needs though.
few other needs. Offensive lineman is a big need that I was looking at earlier in the last couple of weeks. Earlier, I said defensive line, but they ended up getting Wilkins from Miami. They
Right,
have Max
yeah, that was a
Max.
nice pickup.
Yeah.
Great.
So I say they go offensive lineman, and they go with the guy out of Penn State. I can't even
Fashanu?
pronounce. Yeah.
Fashanu. Remember a guy DM'd him asking how to pronounce his name, and he said
Yes.
Fashanu. There's so many
Yeah.
there's so many tongue twisters
The
in
tongue
with
twister.
linemen. We got Fuaga, Fashanu, uh, and then Fuaga,
Fatanu.
and yeah, it's just there's a lot of tongue tie names in this first round. Um, but yeah, what's gonna go? What's how does this pick go?
Man, these guys are always inconsistent. They can't even rebuild their franchise. Every year it's like, let's demolish it, but they don't end up doing it.
Okay,
Um,
Fashanu is the pick. So now we have the New Orleans Saints on the clock, a team that's kind of been in this weird purgatory for ever since Drew Brees left. Um,
Hmm.
yep.
a lot of ways they could go here. We still have Brock Bowers on the board too. It'd be interesting to see him in a Saints uniform, but they obviously need offensive line as well to protect Derek Carr. Um,
Hmm.
what's the move here?
Saints, I mean, they haven't really had the same firepower since Breeze left. They're always inconsistent as a team. They think they're going to rebuild, but they never do it. A lot of needs here at this pick. Offensive line, maybe Bowers. I don't know. Um, I feel like they should go offensive line, and it's a guy out of Oklahoma that I like, Tyler Guyton.
Wow, that's a big pick, dude. I like that pick. He's he's a guy that's projected in the latter part of the draft that I know so many teams have been trying to call up and get, including the Green Bay Packers. But I like
Very
that pick a
versatile.
lot. Over Fuaga,
Yep,
and Amarius Mims.
yep.
They need that help. Yeah. Not much to say. It's the Saints. They're kind of like the Chicago Bulls of the NFL, just trying to be in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that pick. I was confused why he's projected later in the round. But yeah.
I think that speaks though to, like we were talking earlier, the value of, not only the QBs and receivers, but the O linemen in this
Hmm.
draft is going to be it'll be interesting to see because we could have teams diving deep, maybe deeper on the leaderboard in the eyes of everyone putting the mocks together, but a valuable offensive lineman like him um could be a lot more valuable to these teams than people looking from the outside in.
Yeah. So still a lot of linemen on the board. Now we have Indy on the clock though. A place that a lot of people have put Brock Bowers. I know in our last mock draft, we just didn't know where to put him.
No,
But
we did.
um, but yeah, so Indy's on the clock here. What's the move?
Could go Bowers. But I'm thinking defensive back, and I like Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. I just feel like he would be a great fit for Indy. I feel like he'd be a great shutdown. I mean, you can put him wherever. I mean, you can put him safety, you can put him free safety,
Hmm.
corner, wherever you could put him. I mean, he's locked down. Same with his teammate McKinstry out of Alabama. Those two guys. I mean, they're locked down.
Yeah. I like that pick. Okay. Now, whew, a lot
Arguably the
riding
pick
on
that
this pick,
matters the
gentlemen.
most.
The
Yeah.
moment of
Your
truth.
Seattle Seahawks, after your GM made some interesting moves this offseason, now you guys are in the GM seat. What would you guys do with this pick?
I think me and Daniel may be aligned on this pick here. Um, I don't know, Daniel. Why don't you talk and I'll backfill.
Okay, since this is our team right here, quarterback questionable. I didn't like what we did with getting Sam Howell. I thought that was a question mark. Gino's getting older. Could go quarterback. We need offensive line, need defensive line, uh, corner maybe, safety. But to be
A lot of
honest,
needs.
yeah, a lot of needs. But I mean, they don't have a second round pick. So I
Yeah.
feel like, and since we got a defensive minded head coach in McDonald, we got the offensive guru that we had at Washington last year in Grubb. Grubb needs to take a Washington guy, and the two of them need to be like, we're all in on this pick, including the front office, including Schneider.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Penix Jr. Book it.
Wow.
Daniel, it may not be my mind that's, agreeing with you, but everything else in my body is telling me we need Penix at this pick here. I don't know if you guys saw what he wrote out in that letter. Man, that hits hard. All you need to know about me can be found in the EKG, baby. I love it.
Mhm.
I uh I think I think that dude's going to be a strong pick. I think he's undervalued. We've seen him get pushed back and forth between the first and second round, even. I think there's a lot of question marks on where he falls. I hope he falls in the 16th pick.
So do you guys think he's going to be the third string quarterback?
I think we try to make a trade with Gino.
Yeah. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. I don't know what teams can afford Geno Smith and the cap hit. Um, that's a whole nother,
Mm-hmm.
scenario, thinking of what team would need him. Um, but yeah, the Howell thing confused me a lot because,
Mm-hmm.
giving up that second round, third, was it the second or third? It was a third, I believe,
It
because
was a third
they
rounder.
gave up the second round for Leonard Williams. And so obviously, you're giving up, considering you don't have that second round pick, then you're giving up your third round for a quarterback. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just there's so many needs, and they need a slam dunk with this draft for
Yeah,
sure.
I feel like especially, I mean, because they've given away those other two picks, their 16th is they've got to go in a big direction in a big way. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but with his play on the field, but also, what he was able to do off the field and the type of, leader he is. I've been waiting for Seattle to build back up, a quarterback that we can buy into. I don't think we've
Yep.
seen that. We kind of lost that a little bit on the tail end of Russ. Haven't really gotten that in Geno since the initial revival. So I
Mhm.
would love to see us get behind a quarterback and go all in. And I just don't think Gino or Sam Howell are those dudes.
I agree with Tyler here on this one. And also you can build defensive minded with Grubb and with what he had at Washington with the star power of Penix at the controls. Give him that motivation factor of the adversity that he had to overcome to come to Washington.
Yeah.
He's gonna stay here and he's gonna leave one heck of a legacy towards our NFL franchise.
I think it's also needed from what we've seen in the media about the changes McDonald's gone and made. I feel like there needs to be somebody to try and harness that locker room buy-in because I feel like it could be going both ways. Guys could not be liking the changes going on, or they
Yep.
could be all in. I think there needs to be somebody to bring everybody together and just, go all in on this season because there are some big changes and I know people really liked Pete as a locker room guy, but I think we gotta go into this season just ready to do whatever it takes to, make everybody come together.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Trading Gino would be very tough, but I'd love to see Penix in a Seahawk uniform for sure.
Yeah. Like I said,
Okay.
that's more of a this is a mock draft, so that's more of a want for me than
Oh yeah.
maybe it's not the most realistic, but I know me and Daniel would both love to see him
Oh
in
yeah.
in the blue and
Yep.
green.
Okay. So now we have Jacksonville on the clock. Um, a lot of needs, but their cornerback room is atrocious right now. Um, let's go Quinion Mitchell. Um, I'm not as high on him just because he played almost like no press man. Like he really sags off and um so many teams would just run out routes on him because he was just playing so far back. And so I think he was putting a lot of pressure on his own athleticism to, make those types of plays. And so it'll be interesting to see how it translates to the NFL. But he's high on the boards for a reason, and so I'll trust that reason and take him here.
Yeah.
Um, Second half of the draft is a lot more of a speed run. There's not as much to speculate, but now things could get interesting because Cincinnati's on the clock. I believe today it was revealed that Trey Hendrickson has requested a trade, their
Yep.
defensive end to tackle D lineman. Also, T. Higgins has been in quite a few rumors as well. Um, this could go so many ways. Um, but with Fuaga, then might as well. He's on the board still.
Good
Um,
pick.
yeah. So now the Broncos who've traded down, they got some extra capital. Um, let's see. There's a quarterback on the board right now that feels like he could go at 19. So let's go Bo Nix here. He'll be Sean Payton's quarterback. He'll battle out with Zach Wilson. Thinking about Bo Nix, he's obviously going on 25 years old. He played, 6 years plus of college football. And so there's that argument to, his age, but his pedigree he's got a pretty good going from Auburn in the SEC to the Pac-12, he only got better. And
Yep.
so you have to consider the fact that he is a winner. He knows, how to be in big game situations. Um, he liked to get the ball out pretty quickly. He threw very well under pressure, but we'll see because Oregon's offense, it's hard to really predict
Yeah.
an Oregon
Yeah.
offense in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
just the pace of that offense and not being able to get away with that in the NFL. So, but I like him here. Um, and yeah, what do you guys think of that?
I agree with you on the Oregon offense. I think that's been a thing for a while. Obviously we've seen a lot of turnover when they make it into the NFL because it's a completely different system. I have some reasons to believe that Herbert could be the guy to break that cycle and kind of break out and be different from the former. Obviously they had a great season last year, other than those two losses against the Huskies. Um,
Yeah, let's go.
but I
Let's
mean,
go.
Denver's got to make a move. Zach Wilson's not going to cut it. We saw that last year. He even had weapons at his disposal and didn't make it happen. And so I think they've got to go with somebody on the board. And if Bo Nix is still here, I think that's a good pick for them to at least try to go in the right direction. But they've been going so far in the wrong direction. I don't even know. I don't know if they'd be able to come up with a pick like this. I hope they do for their sake.
Oh, Nix, to be honest, would be the right guy for the starting quarterback job. I don't trust Zach Wilson one bit. I don't trust Jared Stidham one bit. This would be the right guy for Sean Payton to groom and have him ready within a time period during the season. Put him in
Yeah,
immediately if necessary.
yeah, and I think Sean Payton's at that point where he will make that move if he has to. I think that's a great take.
Hmm. Okay. Pittsburgh on the clock, real quick. I'm gonna try to see if I can do a trade. It worked. Okay, so the Kansas City Chiefs offensive linemen have been going pretty quickly so far, and that's what the Chiefs really need. Um, you know, and Pittsburgh, it could go a lot of ways with their pick. I know receivers have been mocked to them, but I think they're going to be okay moving back to the, pick 32 with the value that'll be there, while also picking up a little bit of depth in the meantime. So Kansas City moves up 12 picks, and they're going to get Amarius Mims from Georgia.
Nice pick.
Patrick
Nice
Mahomes
pick.
got some help on the way, and they
It's
could
He
go
coming.
needs it.
receiver too, yeah. But yeah.
I'd be interested to see that move, and not that I think it's super likely, but I think it could be interesting to see if they're able to get a receiving threat because I know
Hmm.
that was a big issue. He was kind of hitting
Huge.
him right in the
Oh
chest, and it
yeah.
would bounce right out of there. So a lot of
Yeah.
drop passes. So I think obviously they need O line depth, but I'd be interested to see if they maybe try and mix it up, maybe go after a receiving threat. But I think your
Mhm.
pick is solid, Kellan.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
looking at that
Mhm.
value draft chart, all the teams have it in their war rooms. Uh, Going up from 12 picks, this would be bold for the Chiefs to go offensive line or receiver.
Yeah. Um, okay, Miami is now on the clock. Um, they lost a few big names to free agency. Um, they made a few moves as well. They got Jordan Brooks. Um, they kind of had a similar free agent situation to Seattle, I guess. They kind of brought in some veterans on some prove it now deals. So there's a lot of holes, but they're still going to be competitive. This pick could go a lot of ways, but like you guys were talking about earlier with the loss of Christian Wilkins, there's just such a massive hole, in the middle of that line now. And so thinking about what kind of, whether it's they're wanting a run stopping or pass rushing, I don't think it really matters. I'd go Johnny Newton here or Jerzon Newton.
Here's
Um,
on.
yeah, he's got some sneaky athleticism for a defensive tackle, and so another guy kind of like Byron Murphy, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
could go so many ways though.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
I think
He's relentless.
Yeah.
yeah. And I personally I'd like to see Miami do well. I think they fell a little short last season, especially with the firepower they had. I really like Tua. I like their offense. Um, so yeah, I'd love to see him beef up on the defensive side and you know get after it this upcoming season.
Okay. So now we got Philly on the board.
Ooh,
Ben Weiss.
Ben
And
Weiss is I don't know how he's feeling right now.
I don't either.
Disappointed.
He'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Cornerback's been a big need, especially last year. I feel like every time I'd get on Twitter, some Eagles fan was complaining about Bradbury or something. And then obviously remember the holding call in the Super Bowl. But um, there's a lot of really good cornerbacks still on the board. So um, and it's like they've drafted quite a few like big name athletes over the years. Thinking of like Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith. So I think they take the bait quite a bit on athletic scores, and we've yet to really see those players hit their full stride. I know it's earlier in their careers, but um, I'm gonna go corner, and I'll go Nate Wiggins. I'll say that they're gonna take that sort of bait and go for the phenomenal, speed. He ran, under a 4.3, and so that's where I'll put Nate Wiggins. Okay.
Great combine numbers. He put
Yeah.
up
Mm-hmm.
incredible combine numbers, and his season highlights were impeccable. I
Mhm.
remember seeing him make a huge interception,
Oh yeah.
a couple pick sixes there and there.
Mhm.
He's would fit in perfectly with the Eagles scheme.
Okay, so this one's interesting. Again, you'd think the Vikings acquired that second first rounder in effort to trade up, which still could happen, But in this case, they got McCarthy at 11. They didn't need to worry about that. So, um, it's definitely going to make them question a lot of things, maybe why they traded that pick in the first place or for that pick in the first place. But um, let's just use the pick that they have. And this is a guy that he's been, he had to medically retire when he was on the Huskies. But as far as another guy, kind of like Dallas Turner, who's got that sneaky freak athleticism who can rush the quarterback, uh, let's go Leatu Latu. Uh, he passed his medicals, everything was fine. So we're gonna say Minnesota takes that medical risk and goes and gets him.
Former Husky man, he's one of the best players that I saw at Washington, and then when he went to USC, not USC, UCLA, when he went there, he just went unstoppable. He rushes the passer. He just gets after it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, the tone is set at the front, right on the line, both sides of the ball. I think being able to, they're coming in strong with JJ McCarthy, working to fill that hole that was made with Kirk Cousins. And, I think giving some love to the defensive side up front where the work is done, I think it's a great move. Shout out to the former Husky again. First round's looking good for the Huskies.
Yeah. Okay, so Dallas is on the clock. Dallas, Jerry stayed put in free agency, and maybe that's because they are, thinking of all the future money they're gonna have to pay Micah, CD, and then Dak being, a $60 million quarterback potentially. It's a weird time for them, and it's like I don't really know where, things go from here, with the off season they had. And so
Yeah.
whoever they get is going to need to be impactful, immediately. And so um they've been known for years to have the best offensive line in football. I know a lot of guys have left, a lot of guys have gotten old. And so, a lot of the interior line is still on the board too, which is intriguing. So, um, where do we go with this one, guys? This is interesting. Let's go Jordan Morgan from Arizona. Why not? He could kind of be a fringe second round guy, but with how many linemen we've already seen taken in our mock, dude, there's just so many good ones. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
All
Green
right,
Bay
Kellen.
on the clock.
This means a lot to you.
Yeah.
on the clock.
Yeah.
Moment of
This one's
truth.
interesting because Green Bay has the most picks in the draft with tied with two other teams. They've been known to go defense every single draft over in probably the last 20 years outside of Jordan Love has been a defensive player. And that trend could continue. I know quite a few people kept mocking them offensive linemen, and it was really hard for me to see that vision, because they love to find kind of those hidden gems in the day two and day three. So I think they'll be able to find that offensive line value down the board. But the guy that, so many Packer fans want, including myself, because of his versatility. I know his injury history is a little concerning, but Cooper DeJean is on the board. Their new defensive coordinator, he wants a guy who can play on the line. He can play deep center field. He's a hard-hitting player. And, I know Dan is a big fan of him as well. He was able to, lead the country in pick sixes and touchdown returns. And so he's a slam dunk pick for the Packers. I hope he's available then. Uh, and he gets to reunite with Packers first round pick last year, Lucas Van Ness. So that's where I would go with the pick if if it was me.
Mm-hmm.
Eugene is a stud. Punt return yards. He's a versatile returner. Pick sixes. I mean, he's a threat, and he can shut down anyone whoever comes up if it's stopping the run if needed, or going deep down the field, just sideline to sideline, ball hawking ability. He's definitely one of the guys that I had top five. Like I had to watch this guy's highlights, and he's just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they need all the help they can get at cornerback. That's been one of the positions that's been a struggle for them, but I'm intrigued by, the picks they have down the board. And so that leads us to Tampa Bay. And there's a guy on the board who could have gone so much earlier. Um, eh, and that's Jared Verse. And I'm going to take
Let's
him
go.
out of
Let's
Florida
go.
State. Dan's, oh, Florida State.
Let's go, man.
Um, he was mocked at the beginning of the college season as far up as, in the top five. Um, his position is not indicative of the season he had. He still is an incredible player, worthy of, being a top pick. But the value down here would be incredible for Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's where I was going with that one. Um, and now,
Man is a
yeah,
beast.
yeah,
He's
talk to me about, yeah, you like that pick, Dan?
I watched this guy for 2 years develop, and he is just off the line, fires so fast. He his rushing ability, just getting off double teams, triple teams. Towards the end of the year, I mean, he was dominating the ACC in sacks, tackles for loss, and he was just unstoppable. I love this pick for Tampa.
Okay, moving on. We got the Arizona Cardinals back with their second pick, and this could go a lot of ways too. I've been seeing this guy's name appear in the first round a little bit right now. Let's get them some edge help. We're gonna go Darius Robinson from Missouri. I think he could sneak into the
Nice.
first round. So we got some edge rushers going kind of late. Um, Buffalo's on the clock now, and again, a team that dumped quite a bit of salary this offseason, cutting
Mm-hmm.
some of
Yep.
their big names on defense. I think in retrospect, that Von Miller contract was just not the best decision. He was
Yeah.
already old and he's barely been able to get on the field. So that contract really screwed them over. And now, Stephon Diggs spent a season pretty upset. You could tell by his body language on the sideline and in the huddle. And so obviously they were able to get a pick out of that. But they need to replace him. And there's many names that they could go, but um, I'm gonna go Brian Thomas Jr. here with the pick from LSU. Again, Jaden Daniels had two of the most amazing weapons in the entire, country, and so they need all the help they can get, and I think he's the guy for replacing Diggs.
Hmm.
Thomas is a guy I love. I've been looking at him ever since the season ended for LSU and during the combine. This is a guy I've followed. I even watched a little bit of his, like, before he came to LSU, like early high school, and he was
Mhm.
so dominant. And I just love this guy a lot. He's a great need, great pick because, I mean, you don't have Diggs, you don't have Davis. This would be a great fit for the Bills.
Help there, but we're gonna go Graham Barton here just to beef off the interior line, I guess, a little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So, um, and now Baltimore on the clock again.
Ravens.
I don't think we're gonna be able to fit Bowers in here, fellas.
I think we
Once
missed the
again,
window.
We did.
Unfortunately, that's kind of how it
This
falls
trade
into
simulator
place.
just doesn't work with trading for Indianapolis. So,
We
um,
tried to get him in there. He just
yeah,
didn't
again.
fit.
So, what does Baltimore do? They take Kool-Aid McKinstry, the coolest name in the draft, and
I think that's no
they've had,
debate there.
yeah,
yeah,
they've had success with Alabama cornerbacks in the past too. So yeah, two cornerbacks from Alabama in the first round, guys. Um, yeah, Baltimore gets a big name. Their defense is already stacked enough, so
Yeah, that's not going to be fun for their opponents this upcoming year. I think they play nasty on defense. I think this only contributes.
a
absolutely.
great pickup for Baltimore. I agree. This is the best guy that I've seen locked down. Another ball hawker, sideline to sideline. He loves
Hmm.
the interceptions. He can run it back all the way to the end zone. He's a great pickup for Baltimore.
Okay, so San Francisco's on the clock, and this could go a lot of ways. But thinking about the type of person that's going to take them over the top to the next step, um, and thinking that hopefully Brandon Ayuk is on their team next year and they don't have to trade him.
Hmm.
Somebody like, and I know, AD Mitchell is still on the board. Um,
Warvy,
Trey
Hmm.
Franklin's still on the board, but thinking of the type of receiver they don't have, it's that speedy, deep threat guy.
Yep.
So
mhm,
obviously Ayuk led the league in, how many yards per catch, or he was catching probably an 18-yard pass a game.
Hmm.
But I think Xavier Worthy would be that guy. And so,
Yep. Yeah, he was a big threat when we faced them. When the
yeah.
Huskies faced them deep in the playoffs.
And then to round things off, we're gonna have Pittsburgh take Jackson Powers Johnson, and our mock is complete.
let's
We're
go.
running out of time. So to finish things off, thank you guys. Thank you, Tyler, for joining us today. This was
Thank
super
you.
fun.
Absolutely.
Really appreciative of all your insight today. Um, yeah, thanks for joining us, dude. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas. It's been great. Can't wait to keep up with what you guys are doing here.
Thank
Alrighty.
you,
Well,
man. We appreciate it.
yeah. But that's been another episode of the Daniel Duncan Show. We will see you guys later.